Imagine for a second that you're sitting in a coffee shop in Islamabad at 9:30 in the morning, reading an Arabic newspaper, sipping tea, watching the door. You've done this every day for a week. You're not waiting for a friend. You're waiting for a man who doesn't know you're CIA, a man who made one mistake, one tiny pattern, one crack in his operational security that you've been tracking for months. Now imagine that same morning, somewhere in Langley, Virginia, an analyst is staring at 14 addresses scattered across a city, knowing that inside one of them is the third most wanted terrorist in the world, and you have exactly 6 hours to figure out which one before he disappears again. This isn't a movie. This is Tuesday. This is how black operations actually work, and by the end of this, you'll understand why the system is designed not to catch every terrorist, but to make sure the right ones never see a courtroom. We've been told that intelligence work is about satellites and supercomputers, about technology so advanced it can read a license plate from space. But the dark reality is that most intelligence comes from one human being convincing another human being to betray everything they believe in, and the CIA has spent 70 years perfecting the art of that conversation. This isn't just about catching bad guys, it's about why your tax dollars fund a system that operates in legal gray zones, why officers sometimes go to prison for doing their jobs correctly, and why the people who designed torture programs retired wealthy while the whistleblowers served time. And if you think this doesn't affect you, every time you hear about a drone strike or a foiled terror plot, you're seeing the tip of an iceberg built on recruiting assets, running surveillance detection routes, and making split-second decisions that violate every value we claim to hold. Let's start with the basics, then pull back the curtain. The CIA is not what most people think it is. It's not James Bond. It's not Jason Bourne. It's a bureaucracy that happens to run the most dangerous intelligence operations on the planet. And it does that by taking people who speak the right languages, teaching them how to lie professionally, and sending them to places where getting caught means death. After 9/11, the agency transformed overnight from an intelligence gathering organization into something closer to a paramilitary force. They started borrowing special forces operators, guys who would fly somewhere, kill somebody, and be back in Virginia for a Tuesday meeting. The most obvious risk of working counterterrorism is death, but that's almost too obvious to dwell on. The real risk is slower. It's watching colleagues get killed. It's sitting next to someone at headquarters who dies in a suicide bombing 3 months later. It's knowing that the guy you trained with, the one who spoke fluent Pashto and loved his kids, got shot in the mountains of Afghanistan, and his family was told he died in a training accident. The stress is otherworldly. Your marriage probably won't survive an operational tour. The divorce rate among counterterrorism officers is staggering, and nobody talks about it because operational security means you can't even tell your spouse what you did today. You just come home, drink, and hope they don't ask. But here's where it gets dark. The job isn't dangerous because of the enemy. It's dangerous because of the rules. When people join terrorist groups, they do it because they're true believers. They hate what you represent more than they love life itself, and they're happy to die proving it. At the same time, you're not doing this work in London or Paris. You're doing it in Yemen, Somalia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, places where stepping outside the embassy compound without a plan is suicide. In Pakistan, unless you were about to carry out an operational act, you stayed inside. It was simply too dangerous. So you have this exceedingly difficult job, hunting people who want to kill you. And you have to do it while blending in, staying calm, and keeping yourself alive. Let me give you an example. Athens, Greece. Sounds safe, right? It wasn't. Athens in the early 2000s was one of the most dangerous places in the world for American intelligence officers. A terrorist group called 17 November had murdered the CIA station chief, 2 US defense attachés, and an Air Force sergeant. They were methodical, patient, and lethal. So when you're stationed there, you don't take chances. You drive an armored car, level 4 armor, the kind that can stop rifle rounds. You carry 2 guns, a Glock 9mm on your waist, a Smith & Wesson 38 on your ankle, and a knife in your back pocket just in case everything goes wrong, and that's all you have left. Every morning you run a surveillance detection route before you do anything operational. You vary your patterns. You never go to the same coffee shop twice in a row. You never establish a routine. And then one day, halfway through your tour, a British defense attaché arrives. His name is Stephen Saunders. Everybody loves him. He's the life of the party, always smiling, always on camera. At a cocktail party, he sees your armored BMW and laughs. You Americans are so obsessed with security. It's a NATO country. What are you so afraid of? And you laugh back, but you're thinking, you Brits live in a dream world if you think palm trees and beaches mean they won't kill you if they get the chance. A couple of weeks later, you make a mistake you've never made before. You sleep through your alarm. You have to take the main road straight to the embassy. No surveillance detection route, no counter surveillance, just straight down this boulevard. You turn on the radio. Music plays. Then the announcer cuts in. Avoid this boulevard. There was a terrorist attack. You see a white Range Rover in the far left lane. Blood all over the interior. The driver's side window shot out. Stephen Saunders drove a white Range Rover. They took him to a hospital next to the British Embassy. He died 20 minutes later. You knew who did it. 17 November. But here's the part that keeps you awake. They dropped a manifesto at the scene. Your boss runs into your office, face pale. Did you see the manifesto? It mentions you. You laugh. Not possible. Nobody took security as seriously as I did. He shows you the document. It says in Greek, "We saw the big spy, but he was driving an armored car, and we knew he was armed, so we elected to carry out the revolutionary sentence on the war criminal Saunders. They saw you. They chose him because he was easier. You pack, you fly home, you pick up your kids, your wife. That night is the last night you spend in a house with your family as a married man. She looks at you and says, 'I'm not doing this anymore.' The divorce papers come soon after. This is what nobody talks about. The job doesn't just risk your life, it ends your life as you knew it. Now, you might think the solution is better training, better weapons, better technology, and sure, those things help. But the real work of counterterrorism isn't about gear. It's about people. Specifically, it's about recruiting assets, human sources who can infiltrate terrorist groups and feed you intelligence from the inside. Because here's the thing. As an American CIA officer, you're not going to infiltrate Al-Qaeda. Even if you speak fluent Arabic, you speak with an accent. You can't just put on a thobe and a dish dasha, walk into a training camp and volunteer. That's Hollywood. It doesn't happen. So your job is to find someone who is either a member of a terrorist group or can become one and convince them to work for you. There are a million types of people you might recruit, but if you recruit a bona fide terrorist, someone with real access, you're going to meet with him once a month for hours, and he's going to give you 5, 6, 10 intelligence reports. This is what they're planning. This is who they're targeting. This is the weapons cache location. That's the gold. But getting there requires a process most people never see. When you're training as a case officer, an instructor tells you something that sounds insane. He says he went through his entire 30-plus year career and never had a target say no to a recruitment pitch. You ask how that's possible. He laughs. When you eventually drop cover and say, "I'm not really the economic officer, I'm CIA," you have to be 100% certain they won't run screaming, call the police, report you to their ambassador. You have to know they'll say yes before you ask. That's where the development process comes in. You take them to lunch, to dinner. You spend weekends together. Your families become friends. Your kids play together. You're building trust, but you're also looking for vulnerabilities. Maybe the guy loves his kids more than anything, and you can get his child into Harvard and pay for it. Maybe his wife has cancer, and you can get her into the Mayo Clinic. Maybe he's a gambler, always short on money, embezzling from his embassy. Maybe he hates his boss, hates his government, wants revenge. 95% of recruitments are for money. Sometimes it's ideology, sometimes it's excitement, sometimes it's revenge, but almost always it's money. The resources at the CIA are virtually unlimited if the intelligence is good. If you have access to the location of Al-Qaeda's leader, the reward is $10 to $25 million, paid in cash, gold, diamonds, land, however you want it. But you have to earn that trust first. You develop the target to the point where he believes you're his best friend, where he's willing to commit treason for you. One case officer was in a coffee shop every morning at 9:30, reading an Arabic newspaper. He did this for a week. On day 7, a group of men walked in, 4 or 5 of them, members of a terrorist cell. One of them looked at him. He nodded back. The next week, same thing. 9:30, Arabic newspaper. This time, one of them nodded first. Then one day, the man came in alone. He sat down. They started talking. The man mentioned his family. His wife and kids were in Cairo. He'd never met his son. He was stuck in Afghanistan, made bad decisions, joined the wrong group. He just wanted to go home. The case officer said, "If that's all you want, I can take care of that." He recruited him, got him a passport, gave him money, put him on a plane. In return, the man gave him everything: names, locations, operational plans, specific, actionable intelligence that led to other recruitments, other arrests. At the end, the case officer asked, "Why did you let me recruit you?" The man said, "I've been here 5 years, and you were the first person who ever asked me about my family." There's no manual for that. You either have the instinct or you don't. A normal asset meeting starts with the mad minute. Were you followed here? Were you followed home last time? Any problems? Any concerns? Then you set the next meeting. 1 month from tonight, 8 p.m., such and such hotel. Then you sit down, have coffee. How was your month? What have you heard? What do you think about this person? Do we need to worry about him? Is he in charge of the weapons? It's not unusual for a meeting to last 2 or 3 hours. One meeting lasted 8 hours. Sometimes you meet in a safe house. Sometimes you're walking on a beach. Sometimes you're driving. Anywhere private, anywhere safe. One case officer recruited a source in a country too dangerous to meet in, so they flew to Europe once a month. They'd meet 8 hours a day for 3 days. Then the case officer would take a train to a different country, so it didn't look like they were flying back from the same city. Some meetings happen in cars. That's called a car pickup, a CPP. You pick the person up at a spot where as few people as possible will see you. Maybe a semi-residential area, a corner, an alley. He jumps in, you take off. The meeting time is 2 a.m. You want to be there between 1:58 and 2:02. If you're there at 1:58 and he's not, you do one more loop. If he's not there by 2:02, you abort and try again 24 or 72 hours later, whatever the agreement is. You don't want anyone noticing a car looping the block, writing down your license plate. You don't want attention. But here's what nobody talks about. Double agents are real, and they're a very big problem. A case officer was well into his career when a station chief called him. The station chief said, "One of my guys recruited a double agent. The double doesn't know we know. The enemy service instructed him to only speak with the station chief. I live here. Too dangerous for me to meet him. Can you fly out, pretend to be me, handle the double?" The case officer said yes. He flew out, met the guy in a hotel, gave him a big bear hug, patting him down for weapons. The man had none. The case officer made a show of taking off his jacket, showing he had no weapons either. He sat down, ordered coffee. The man asked, "Are you the chief?" The case officer said, "You asked for him. You got him." He met with the double once a month for 6 months. They monitored everything the double reported back, everything the enemy service told him to do. Then one day, the case officer got a call from a sister agency. The woman said, "He's been instructed to kill you in the next meeting." The case officer laughed. "The guy's afraid of his shadow. He's not going to kill me. But even if he tries, I'll grab him when he comes in. You guys burst in, we get him." They agreed with one condition: bulletproof vest. The case officer flew back out. 4 armed security guys waited in the lobby. Turns out the bad guys had 4 armed guys in the lobby too. Everyone's staring at each other, noticing bulges under jackets. The double called, "Come up to room 615. The case officer propped the door open. The double walked in. The case officer tackled him. The man was trying to pull a gun from his waistband. The case officer had his arm, his hand. Colleagues burst in. They pinned him to the floor. He was screaming, "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar." They gave him a shot of Demerol, knocked him out, put him on a gurney, covered him like he was dead, took him down in the service elevator, put him in an ambulance, drove him to intelligence headquarters. He woke up 2 hours later, tied to a chair. The case officer said, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way. We know who you are." He was the leader of that country's Hezbollah wing. "We want all the weapons." The man said, "Fuck you." So they decided to raid his house. Problem was, he had a live-in maid who never left, and she didn't know anything. They couldn't just break in. One officer suggested declaring a gas leak, evacuating the neighborhood. The liaison service said, "We don't have gas lines, we use propane." So they brought a propane truck, leaked propane, declared an emergency. Fire department evacuated the block. They broke into the house, found a massive gun safe. The locks and picks team cracked it. Inside was nothing but a handwritten, childlike map. They followed the map south, got out where it told them to, found a bunker full of weapons. Landmines, grenades, rocket-propelled grenades, everything. They put Hezbollah out of business in that country. The man is still in prison 25 years later. This brings us to the most dangerous part. The thing law enforcement dreads. An SDR, surveillance detection route. Every CIA officer must master this. It's what keeps you from being assassinated or arrested. You leave your kickoff point, home, office, wherever. You run a route. Maybe 2 hours if the threat is moderate, maybe 8 hours if you're in a hostile place. You're changing into pre-positioned cars, taking the subway, walking, getting in a different car, taking an Uber. An SDR has 4 phases: kickoff, stair-step, provocative, final approach. Kickoff is simple. You go from your start point to point A. Then you stair-step, right, left, right, left, right, left. When you stair-step like that, you can see if you're being followed. If you are, you abort, go home, try again in 24 hours. If you're not sure, you enter the provocative phase. You drive halfway up a block, make a U-turn, drive back, make a K-turn, pull into a driveway, make another K-turn. Stuff that makes no sense. That's to confirm with 100% certainty you're not being followed. One officer served overseas with a woman, a legitimate State Department officer. She came into the office one day and said, "I was under heavy surveillance last night. I took them on a ride they'll never forget. I was going 100 miles an hour." Everyone listening realized that because she tried so hard to lose them, they assumed she was CIA. They never surveilled the actual case officer again because he was just going to the wine store, the fabric store, driving home. They focused on her. You have to be very careful not to establish patterns. One case officer almost got burned twice. He was flying to Eastern Europe once a month to handle an asset. The asset was proud of his village, high in the mountains. There was a hunting lodge. He said, "Let's go there. They serve wild boar, bear stew." The case officer went. He ordered a very unusual drink, something his grandmother used to drink. The waitress brought it. Next month, same thing. They go to the lodge. He orders the drink. The waitress says, "I remember you." He says, "No, I've never been here." She says, "Yes, you have. You're the only person who's ever ordered that drink. I've been here 10 years. He realized he blew it. She spotted him. She was just a waitress, but what if she'd been an intelligence officer posing as a waitress? What if she was a police informant? He told the asset, "We can never go back there again." They never did. Patterns kill. In January 2002, the case officer was named chief of CIA counterterrorism operations in Pakistan. There was a flood of Al-Qaeda fighters crossing the border from Afghanistan. Instead of trying to catch them in the mountains, he decided to catch them in safe houses, 5, 10, 20 at a time. Then they got word. Abu Zubaydah was somewhere in Pakistan. At the time, they thought he was number 3 in Al-Qaeda. If you wanted to be smuggled into Afghanistan to make jihad, he smuggled you in. The case officer asked headquarters to send a targeting analyst, someone who pores through millions of data points to isolate one person's location. The analyst arrived. The case officer said, "We're on his trail, but he's always just ahead of us. Sometimes we break down a door and the cigarette's still lit." The analyst worked. Finally, he came back. "I can't narrow it down past 14 sites." 14. They'd never done more than 2 raids in a single night. The case officer cabled headquarters. "We need a big team." He asked for 36 people, a pallet of weapons, ammunition, cash, night vision goggles, battering rams. The next day, the case officer and 2 Pakistani officers started visiting all 14 sites. They wanted to make sure they weren't driving into an ambush. Most places were little hovels, one-room shacks, concrete block, corrugated tin. Then they came out the back of a university campus. There was this enormous yellow house, Site 12. The Pakistani officer said, "Something bad is happening in there. It's 100 degrees and all the shutters are closed. They're broiling inside, but they want people to think nobody's home." They raided it that night, caught dozens of people crammed in. They drove to the last site. The analyst called. Abu Zubaydah just made a terrible mistake. He accessed his email from a landline. The case officer felt chills. The landline is associated with an address. It's Site 13. They drove to Site 13. Empty field, no house. The Pakistani major laughed. This happens all the time. He called a young tech officer. The officer climbed a telephone pole, went through wires, found the right one, followed it down the pole, down an alley. It's that house. They all gathered. 60, 70 people. Pakistanis, FBI, CIA. The case officer stood on a coffee table. Rule number 1, we take him alive. Exactly at 2 a.m., break down the door, separate women and children from men, take the men to jail. At 2 a.m., the case officer was on the roof of the safe house with his partner. He looked at his watch. Oh, 200, here we go. Then gunshots. Not good. They jumped in the car, sped to Site 13. 3 people lying in the street, one obviously dead, one almost dead, one screaming. A Pakistani policeman said, "We got him, we got your man." He pointed at the guy, almost dead. The case officer said, "What happened?" Abu Zubaydah, a Syrian bomber, and a bodyguard climbed to the roof, tried to jump to the next house. The policeman was picking them off as they jumped. He shot Abu Zubaydah 3 times, thigh, groin, stomach. The case officer said, "This doesn't look like our target." They had a 6-year-old passport photo. He called the analyst. "I don't know if it's him." The analyst said, "Give me a shot of his eye. I'll run a retinal scan." The case officer lifted the eyelid, rolled back, all white. "He's bleeding to death. Get his ear. Take a picture of his ear." The case officer didn't know ears are like fingerprints. No 2 people have the same ears. He took the picture. Headquarters said it's him. They threw him in a pickup truck, sped to the hospital. Word got around the Al-Qaeda community. They started driving by the hospital, opening fire. The case officer and his team kept diving down. He said to the Pakistani major, "If they realize how lightly armed we are, we're dead. Can you get a helicopter?" 20 minutes later, a helicopter landed in the parking lot. The case officer walked into the operating room, shirt over his nose. "Doc, wrap it up. We have to go." They put Abu Zubaydah on the helicopter, flew to a Pakistani military base 50 miles away. The doctor said he'd never seen a patient with wounds so severe who lived. But he lived, and after a while, Abu Zubaydah started to open up. The information he gave was actionable. The way they prepared for raids in Pakistan was simple. The case officer went online with his CIA credit card, bought everything: battering rams, bulletproof vests, weapons, ammunition, walkie-talkies. They didn't have sophisticated gear. Everyone had 9mm because they're reliable. Bulletproof vests. A couple guys had helmets, not many. Lots of ammunition. That was it. They got a tip with an address. 2 CIA officers, 2 FBI agents, 2 Pakistani officials, 2 a.m. Count 1, 2, 3. Boom. Battering ram. Bust the door, throw in a flashbang grenade. Grab 2 kids, 18, 19 years old. Both burst into tears. They got another tip later that week. Did it again. Caught serious people the second time. A senior member of Egyptian Islamic Jihad, some mid-level Al-Qaeda fighters. They did it at 2 a.m. because literally everybody in Pakistan is asleep at 2 a.m. No traffic, nobody out. Best chance of not getting caught. The case officer did dozens of interrogations in Pakistan. He was always the good cop, easier, more natural. The Pakistanis, because it was their country and their rules, could be the bad cop. The very first interrogation was a Jordanian prisoner. They chained him to an eye bolt in the table. The case officer said, "I'm from the American government. I want to ask you some questions." The prisoner said, "Very well." The case officer laid out a map of the Afghan-Pakistan border, told him to show with his finger exactly how he crossed. They already knew the rat lines, but the prisoner told the truth. The case officer thought, this actually works. Next prisoner, same thing. Some had read the Al-Qaeda training manual. They'd pretend to pass out, fall off the chair, lie on the ground. The case officer would just sit there. They'd open one eye, get back on the chair. They'd get up, then fake stomach pain. "I read the manual. I know what you're doing." Some just wouldn't answer. Those went back to jail. The cooperative ones were released or expelled. The uncooperative ones went to Guantanamo. The case officer's conversations with Abu Zubaydah were not substantive. After 56 hours, the CIA sent a private jet with a trauma surgeon from Johns Hopkins. They flew Abu Zubaydah out, took him to the first of about half a dozen secret sites, moved him all over the world so the flight couldn't be traced. He arrived, was given 6 weeks to recover. Then an FBI agent named Ali Soufan began interrogating him. That FBI way: treat people with respect, establish rapport, offer a cigarette, an orange, tea. If he's helpful, let him write a letter to his parents. Sometimes it takes days, weeks, months, but they open up. Sure enough, after a number of weeks, Abu Zubaydah started talking. Everything he gave Ali was true and actionable. For example, they didn't know what the Al-Qaeda organizational chart looked like. This sounds crazy now, but in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, they didn't know what Al-Qaeda really was. The other thing he told them was even more important. Abu Zubaydah told them about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. They'd never heard the name. They focused all their assets on finding him. Took another year, but they found him. 9/11 was still an open criminal investigation, so the FBI needed to interrogate prisoners. The CIA resented that. Overseas, the CIA is always in charge. The CIA insisted it be them. The CIA was not willing to be patient. They picked up Abu Zubaydah, took him to secret sites, tortured him, merciless torture, and they have nothing to show for it. Torture is the worst interrogation technique. It does not work. Eventually, the prisoner tells you what you want to hear or what he thinks you want to hear. But there's so much garbage mixed in, it takes analysts months to sort through, and by then, the bomb's gone off, the operations happened. You've cost more American lives. Torture is not appropriate under any circumstances. They caught a guy in Pakistan, sent him to be tortured. The case officer started getting cables. Here's an Al-Qaeda safe house address. You have to raid it. They busted the door. Just an old lady in her house. Another cable. Weapons cache buried next to this building. It was a shish kebab restaurant. They had metal detectors, ground-penetrating radar, nothing buried. The Senate Intelligence Committee did a complete study on the CIA's torture program, which the CIA called enhanced interrogation techniques. They wrote a 5,000-page report, so damning and classified that only a heavily redacted 500-page executive summary was released. The CIA admits it came up with a torture program, paid for it, implemented it. When the case officer returned from Pakistan, a colleague asked if he wanted to be certified in enhanced interrogation techniques. The case officer had never heard that term. He said, "That sounds like a torture program." The colleague said, "It's not. DOJ approved it. The president signed it." The case officer said, "This is a torture program. I don't want anything to do with it." He was the only one who said no. That conversation bothered him deeply. Then he got passed over for promotion. He just captured Abu Zubaydah with his own hands, and he got passed over. He went into his boss's office, screaming. The boss said, "In your promotion panel, the director said you displayed a shocking lack of commitment to counterterrorism." The case officer said, "Because I won't torture people." He was friendly with the deputy director. The deputy came up to him one day, said, "Your name wasn't on the list." The deputy promoted him with a stroke of a pen. The case officer went on to his next assignment, then resigned a year later, went into the private sector. He thought someone would say something to the media about the torture program. Nobody did. Then in December 2007, ABC News called. They had a source who said the case officer tortured Abu Zubaydah. Absolutely untrue. The case officer said, "I was the only person kind to Abu Zubaydah. I'll give you your interview." They met at ABC Studios in Washington. He said the CIA was torturing prisoners. He said torture was official US policy, not the result of rogue actors. He said the policy had been personally approved by the president. Abu Zubaydah is still in Guantanamo today. He's been in American custody almost 24 years, never accused of a crime, let alone convicted. According to the Senate torture report, quoting the CIA, he will never be freed. When he dies, he'll be cremated, his ashes thrown into the Caribbean. It's un-American. His attorneys remain slightly hopeful the political tide will change. Someone in the White House will do the right thing. He should have been released years ago when they realized he wasn't number 3 in Al-Qaeda, had never committed a crime against Americans, never joined Al-Qaeda. Even if he founded safe houses and training camps, he's paid for those crimes many times over. He should be released. The CIA reported the case officer to the FBI for revealing classified information. They investigated him for 3 years. He had no idea his emails were intercepted, FBI agents conducting surveillance. Then he was arrested in January 2012, charged with 5 felonies, including 3 counts of espionage. Facing 45 years in prison, the government offered 30 months, of which he'd do 23. His lawyers said, "This could be a blip in your life or the defining event. Make it the blip." He and his wife stayed up all night. He said, "I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not taking it. The lawyers were furious. They came to his house at 7 a.m. Your problem is you think this is about justice. It's not. It's about mitigating damage. Take the deal. He asked, if I don't take it and I'm convicted, what am I looking at? The lawyer said, 12 to 18 years. Take the deal. So he took it. The sad irony, the sick irony, is that he's the only person connected to the CIA's torture program who went to prison. Not because he tortured anybody, but because he blew the whistle. The people who came up with torture are free and rich. The people who approved it are free and rich. The people who carried it out are free. The people who covered it up are free. He was the only one who went to prison. And honestly, he wouldn't change anything. He's on the right side of history. They are not. He started working for the CIA on January 7th, 1990. His first job was analyst. He got bored in '97, switched to counterterrorism operations. A position opened looking for someone who spoke Greek or Arabic. He was the only person in the entire CIA who spoke both. They decided it was cheaper to take a linguist and teach him operations. He got the job, started basic training on how to recruit spies. You go to the farm, the CIA's training center, first thing, crash and bang. Crashing cars through roadblocks, instructors shooting at your car with paint pellets, rolling out, opening fire on robots. The bang part was weapons. Glock 9mm, Smith & Wesson 38, Remington pump action 12 gauge, tens of thousands of rounds. Then other courses. Defensive driving, counter-terrorist driving, surveillance detection. Then he went to Athens. Halfway through his tour, received a cable inviting him to apply for advanced counterterrorism operations. He jumped at it, flew back to the States, 6 weeks of high threat, high danger training, beacons, listening devices, covert video, drones, all brand new. Driving was crashing through roadblocks, crashing through cars. He got injured. This is serious. If you're in the southern Philippines and Al-Qaeda blocks the road with 2 cars, you have to know which part to crash through. The engine's too heavy, you'll kill yourself. So you crash through the trunk, pushes the car out of the way, you drive off. Little things. First thing he does when he gets in his car, still to this day, lock the doors before putting the key in the ignition. In training, they blindfold you, lift it off, you have 3 seconds to respond. Might be a roadblock, might be a guy with an AK-47, might be a guy opening your door, putting a 9mm to your head. Bang, you're dead, you fail. Do it again. They sent them to Utah, Nevada, drove through the desert, sand dunes, how not to get stuck. On a track, 60 miles an hour backwards, spinning around. Pit maneuvers, hands-on. Everybody had whiplash. He had to have his right knee replaced. What we do for our country. In retrospect, nothing could have better prepared him for 9/11 and Pakistan. He'd been in Greece a couple months, bought a 50-inch TV, had it on the back seat of his armored BMW. Noticed a motorcyclist to his right, trying hard to stay in his blind spot. Slowed down, motorcyclist slowed down. Sped up, motorcyclist sped up. He unzipped his fanny pack so his gun was easier to get. Decided to slam the brakes, swerve right, try to hit the guy. The guy was good, missed him, swerved again, missed. Then Athens traffic, major intersection, 12 lanes, jammed. He pulled out his gun, starting to panic, not thinking, I'm in an armored car, just crash out. The motorcyclist got off, reached into his waistband, pulled out what looked like a .38. The case officer saw a path, gunned it, crashed the motorcycle, it went flying. He took off, got to the cops. They found the motorcycle, stolen license plate. Was it a terrorist attack? They went to every counterterrorism source. None knew anything. Investigation lasted weeks. They determined it was an attempted carjacking. A thief saw the TV on the back of a BMW, thought he'd carjack the guy, but it put him in a frame of mind to be more wary. When he got to Pakistan, he was quicker to act. He believes the future of counterterrorism is human intelligence and drones. The drone's not going to collect information. Bad guys exercise electronic discipline. They're not going to say the plans on the phone. You need human beings inside groups to figure out what they're planning. But when it's time to confront them, you're not going to see CIA officers with M4s and helmets parachuting out of planes. It's going to be drones with Hellfire missiles. He's worried about AI-vis-AVIS counterterrorism. It's tough enough to cross borders with 6 different identities. How will CIA officers cross with facial recognition scans, AI following their every movement? At the same time, AI makes bad guys smarter. The CIA's got money, access to the right people, companies, experts to stay up on this. But it's an uphill struggle. The international terrorism landscape changes constantly. There are constants like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, variations of both. Groups pop up in northern Pakistan, India, the Philippines. It's whack-a-mole. Just as you destroy one, another pops up you have to bash. He thinks we should choose our battles carefully, not cast such a wide net. There's an easy definition of terrorism, using violence to put forward a political goal. But the government's expanding the definition, adding groups to the watch list that have never been on it. Groups loosely associated with Antifa being added is silly. Antifa's not a group, it's an idea. No headquarters, no membership cards. Just loosely affiliated people who are anti-fascist. Every soldier who participated in D-Day was anti-fascist. They'd be Antifa. It's silly, a mistake, diverts attention, diverts finances. We should focus on groups that mean real harm, people who've taken an oath to kill Americans. He's worried it's too easy now to describe people as terrorists. He disagrees with declaring narco groups in Mexico as terrorist groups. At first, he thought it was for legalistic reasons, free up budgets, authorize NSA wiretaps. Great. But declaring them terrorist groups beyond allowing the Pentagon to drone their boats is misguided. He's more civil libertarian. If these people are so dangerous, charge them with a crime. You can't just not like somebody's face and fly around the world to kill them. We're a nation of laws. Anwar al-Awlaki, Al-Qaeda spokesman, American citizen, born in New Mexico, self-radicalized, joined Al-Qaeda. We blew him up with a drone, never charged with a crime. If he was as bad as you say, have the Justice Department file charges. But you can't go around murdering people whose politics you don't like and still profess to be a beacon of human rights. He considers himself a realist. If he had his way, he'd tear the CIA down to the studs, maybe rebuild it as a shell of what it is, but he knows that won't happen. It's up to the rest of us, through elected officials, to make sure the CIA remains law-abiding or becomes law-abiding. Besides that, he encourages young people to apply. You can affect change from the inside. If there's going to be change, it's going to come from inside. So let's recap. We've seen how black operations aren't about satellites and supercomputers. They're about one human convincing another to betray everything. We've seen why torture doesn't work, why the people who designed it retired rich, why the whistleblower went to prison. We've seen the human cost hidden in the bureaucracy, the divorces, the deaths, the colleagues sitting next to you one day killed the next. We've seen why this system operates in legal gray zones, why officers carry 2 guns and run 8-hour surveillance detection routes, why patterns kill, why the job doesn't just risk your life, it ends your life as you knew it. And we've seen why Abu Zubaydah is still in Guantanamo 24 years later, never charged, never convicted, waiting to die so his ashes can be thrown in the ocean. The next time you hear about a drone strike or a foiled terror plot, you'll understand. That's not the system breaking down. That's the system working exactly as designed. And this brings us to the next question. If this is how intelligence operations work in the war on terror, what happens when the same tactics get turned inward, when the tools designed for foreign enemies get used on domestic soil? That's a story for another time. If you want to understand how surveillance states are built from counterterrorism infrastructure, stay tuned. And if this changed how you see intelligence work, let me know. Thanks for listening.